Hello chicos, chicas! Last video I promised you, well I didn't promise, I mentioned that I may cover further games in our match with Felix Izeta, and indeed I did manage to dig up another one that I really enjoyed. I guess YouTubers are partial towards themselves in the sense that they like to show games that they won, and I'm no different in this regard for sure, but I must mention that this game was a very, very good lesson for me that actually allowed me to win other games as well. Let me tell you what exactly I'm talking about. So the game started off with the Slav, which has become a integral part of my current repertoire. Well, I don't really play chess anymore other than online, but I figured out that me, a die-hard King's Indian fanatic, sometimes I felt like I was lacking something. I wouldn't even want to use the word sound, but something very solid and sturdy, something that removes the element of instability from my games from get-go, which certainly is true about the King's Indian. I mean, boy oh boy, the whole purpose of the King's Indian is to set the board on fire from get-go. And every now and then, the classicist in myself, in me, wanted to just, just lean back and not to, worry about everything hanging from move one. And I feel like the Slav complements my repertoire so well. And of course, this is a bit of a commercial, I suppose, on an advert for my the beginners 1d4 d5 repertoire, in which of course I promote the Slav, and I have been playing those variations that I promote in the course with quite notable success actually. And this game was a gentle reminder that I still had a bit of learning to do. We are following here the biggest main line of the Slav Queen e2, Bishop g6, e4 castles. This variation was very topical in the Topalov-Kramnik match, and Topalov scored a few amazing games, not necessarily wins. The best game probably actually was a draw in that match for this particular opening, but nonetheless, that was a theme there. So if you would like to see a few very high quality games for the opening, you should look probably there. So here the most common move amongst grandmasters is e5, knight d5, knight takes, pawn takes per Topalov-Kramnik, when we have got a very strange French structure, strange in the sense that the bad French bishop is no longer on c8 but outside of the chain on h5. That is a huge goal, a huge plus for black. On the flip side, however, white is still going to have a very nasty kingside attack that black needs to somehow manage. Weathering that storm is not going to be still easy, so it's a very exciting middle game scenario. However, my opponent played here second most popular bishop f4, and I must admit to you, I don't want to pretend otherwise, that this caught me off guard, and I did not remember theory whatsoever. And so I'm like, well, okay, well, we will wing it, I suppose. Now I do know what to do, and that move is queen e7, which I might make another video, because since then I played another game for this position that was really, really cool. But in this game, I thought, back to my good old basics, and this is something that I really, really, really like my students to acquire as a mindset, because you overcome so many problems and you become such a fearsome player if you manage to acquire this one little tweak in your mentality, which is that bishop f4, it's designed to stop e5, gotcha, so I do something else, and that switches to bishop f4, designed to stop e5, so I play e5. Now I'm not saying e5 is right here, in fact it's not. But that mental shift of you just going, I don't care, man, if you don't want me to play e5, I will do everything in my power to play e5, is the type of chess mentality that you really, really have to focus on having. And the first move you check every single time in such scenarios, when someone tells you, no e5 for you, is you go like, yes, e5 for me, let me check. Right? And the best move here is actually queen e7 and rook e8. Trying to get e5 in, but I went like, no worries, e5, I'm coming after ya. And whilst this is not sound, and I don't want you to take from this video that e5 is the correct move here, I think the mentality is really, really important. The idea was that after d knight g4, the e5 pawn is an easy prey, so I thought. And I thought that even if I don't regain it immediately, which I am threatening, by the way, due to the semi-pin or third level pin, because now there is something in between. I thought in the long run, queen e7 surely will ensure that I can rake this pawn back on e5. Now, the refutation of the idea is absolutely next level. It is queen d2, sidestepping the pin. And after queen e7, bishop e2 to create a counter pin on my h5 bishop. This is really, like, there is no way I would have figured this out. Especially not in a blitz game. And my GM opponent didn't figure this out. This is really top-end stuff. And now I can't take on e5 because after knight e5 there is a constant problem with these bishops. And if I take e2, white can take d7. And this absolutely crazy skirmish ends in material advantage for white, unfortunately. There is just nothing to be done. We will come out a piece down and we lose. So better is to not take on e5 but play a developing rook d8. Note, by the way, the remarkable piece mobility and freedom I'm enjoying here. But unfortunately, after bishop g5, now I have to settle for fishing in murky waters with f6 takes. And then maybe knight d or knight g. I'm not even sure. Engine wants d. Yeah, either knight retakes. We have got some play. The f-file is quite handy. e4 is a bit loose. The queen is sitting in the d file. But none of these are really anything concrete. And I think that white should be able to patch up the holes and hang on to this pawn. So this was the refutation of my idea. But my GM opponent played a little inaccurately by playing queen c2 first. Now I went queen e7, and that was his last chance. Actually, this is where the inaccuracy happens. So here, if you don't play bishop e2, any other case, black is gonna be fine. And my opponent played queen b3, and right away I knew where this was going. I thought that he was hoping to sack away the pawn with e6, wrecking the structure. Except e6 is never gonna wreck my structure. What it's gonna do, without spoiling the game too much, is that it's gonna open up the f-file for me. So what happened here was that I played a5, and now it is white who is forced to play incredibly precise moves, because I'm threatening with knight c5 now on top of the regaining of the pawn on e5 because of the awkward placement of queen and bishop. And so my opponent plays bishop g5, trying to stay on top, trying to be the one dictating the tempo, always creating new and new threats. But by now I knew where this was headed. I played queen e8, keeping the queen on the e file, of course. Queen c5 was the alternative, it was also good. And I expected e6 here, I knew that this was coming. To be fair, even the better queen c2 would have been met with knight e5, knight e5, knight e5, where I quite like black's position. Objectively, it should still be equalish, but after bishop e2 only, bishop takes, queen takes, and queen, I guess, e6 to reconnect the rooks, threatening knight c4. I have got a very easy position to play. Queen c4 is also on the card, simplifying into an endgame where the pawns are a bit wonky. Yeah, black has no problems at all here. Note that the seemingly annoying f4 is not going to create enough problems. We'll always have this f6 counterpunch. And here black has various ways to go. Queen g4 is one way to prove that the black pieces are too active. If takes, then I take the bishop. If take, then knight takes. And then both bishop c5 and then the pesky knight e3 are threatened. But to be fair, even the timid knight back is quite playable with the idea of an f5 push next. And if f5 I can go in here. This looks a bit scary because of the f6 pushes coming, but I also have quite a lot of threats on the queen side. And yeah, I don't know. f6 still would make me go a bit like, oh, I don't know about this. G6. Yeah, rook e8 is gonna hold. Rook e8 is gonna hold. Because we always can fend off the mate threats with bishop f8. And structurally speaking, this position is beginning to disintegrate for white. But perhaps queen g4 is best here. Very cheeky tactic. Anyway, this is not really important because it was never really... Well, it's not unimportant because it wasn't played, but it's unimportant in the sense that this is what I wanted to show you. Because here, the two players collided in the sense that I knew it was coming and I wanted it to come. He knew it was coming and he thought it was good for him too. Now, obviously you would anticipate here the retake of FE, at which point black is still doing a little bit better after bishop e2. White is dodging knight c5, but nothing immediate is obvious. My plan was different, however. I thought, I'm not going to respond to this. If he wants to crack open the f-file for me, that's fine. I'm going to allow that. I will play knight c5 right away, hitting queen, bishop, pawn. And if they take on f7, no problemo. I will take back with the rook. I think, yeah, this is the right retake too. And I was already eyeing with rook takes f3. And I was very, very, very excited about this possibility. It just felt like my pieces were so well coordinated for the upcoming strike. Yeah, apparently queen c4 was the way to go. My opponent went c2, and that allowed total carnage. The reason why c4 is the better move is because it keeps the rook pinned. But even here, according to the engine, the very crude h6, bishop h4, king h8, simply sidestepping the pin, is going to wreak havoc. Because now, rook f3 is an even stronger threat. Simply because knight e5 is not only going to hit f3, but also queen bishop. Wow. Just wow. And then additionally to that, we also have this bishop f7 move. Once again, the cooperation of the black minor pieces is just outwardly like, wow, man. And the queen just keeps on stumbling from one threat into the next, and the position collapses. Loose queen, loose bishop, everything is gonna fall. Yeah, just black is loving life here. Absolutely loving life here. But we loved life even more after queen c2, which allowed me the exchange wreckrifice. This is a new word I just created for this video, because rook f3 here wrecks everything. The king's defense, the pawn structure, the general cooperation and connection between or amongst the white pieces. So this is total wreckage. Now takes knight e5, and this is all she wrote. He could have thrown in the towel here already, but he fought on for a few more moves. Bishop e2 was played, knight takes f3 check, and this is the end of the business, because now either he allows me to capture a free piece, or he lets me have an absolute monster of a bishop on f3, which is now going to be the main culprit in my mate patterns. Yeah, that is all over. Yeah, it's resignable. He played knight e2, trying to patch up the g file, but the main issue here is not the g file, it's the fact that I'm coming in from here as well. And so at this point, my opponent gave up. Knight is hanging, bishop is hanging, and mate is on. It is just not tenable. The exchange sack just absolutely wrecked this position. Now, was it the exchange sack that really decided the game? I wouldn't say so, because I already knew that that was coming. I think what was really clever on black side was to foresee e6, and to also foresee that this was a harmful move for white, not for black, so long as we allow the take and the opening of the f-file toward the white king. So I think the real clever business here on my end was to see that A, e6 was coming, and 2, or rather B, that it was bad for white, because then the rook was basically just introduced as an extra attacker. And once again, the seemingly well coordinated white army in fact is not coordinating well at all, whereas my pieces are all having awesome, juicy, delicious targets across the board. And yeah, that was just absolute carnage, a really enjoyable win. And I also learned that, so this is a win-win, that I misplayed the opening, and in fact e5 is no bueno here, and queen e7 is potentially best here, when, yeah, we are going to probably transition back in some variation of the main line after e5, knight d5, but now e5 pushes probably more on than it would have been otherwise. Anyway, I will leave the rook wreckrifice on the board as a final, no, here we go, as a final move. Do I get a, oh, I didn't check the review. Do I get a... Oh, I would love to get a double exclam. Let's leave the video with the double exclam. Let's please, chess.com, give me a... what do you call that in... A brilliant move. That's right. I want to leave on a brilliant move note. Ooh, 95%. I'll take that. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, baby. Rook F3. Give me the double exclam. All right, ladies and gents, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed recording it and playing the game. Please don't forget to sub, to like, to comment. Thanks again for Felix Izeta for playing these games against me and being a good sport. Trust me, he did kick my backside a fair number of games as well. Yeah. Once again, thank you for watching. Don't forget to sub, to like, to comment, to super thank me if you can. And I will be back with the next video soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.